Chris Hayes has a program on MSNBC. It's on the weekends. It's called Up with Chris Hayes. It's actually a great show. They have intelligent conversations about real issues in the country. And apparently, from time to time, that gets them in trouble because during Memorial Day weekend, they had a discussion about what it means to be a hero. They weren't questioning the troops. Chris wasn't. He was just questioning the idea of calling all the troops heroes and whether that leads to more of a pro-war mindset. It's a really interesting question. Let's let him explain it.
It is, I think, very difficult to talk about the war dead and the fallen without invoking valor, without invoking the words heroes. Why do I feel so comfortable about the word hero? I feel uncomfortable about the word hero because it seems to me that it is so rhetorically proximate to justifications for more war. And I don't want to obviously desecrate or disrespect the memory of anyone that's fallen, and obviously there are individual circumstances in which there is genuine and tremendous heroism of, hail of gunfire and rescuing fellow soldiers and things like that. But it seems to me that we marshal this word in a way that is problematic, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
So agree or disagree, it's a really interesting point about the priorities that we have in this country. What happens next, of course, is irony, because everyone attacks Chris Hayes for daring to. How could you possibly suggest that? You have to bow your head, call everyone in the military heroes because war is awesome, the Pentagon is the greatest, our soldiers are all heavenly. Now look, the guys who died, do we all feel sick about what happened to them? Of course, we're the ones who didn't want them to die in the first place. Whereas the Republicans sent them into wars willy-nilly like that disaster in Iraq. And then they pretend to be on their side, please, right? Now the question is, how do you treat war overall? It's a really interesting and intelligent conversation, but not the kind we have in the United States. So of course the veterans of foreign wars flip out and cannot believe that Chris Hayes said this. Here we go, let's look at a second clip here.
They also give up their own agency in a certain way that I think is for, again, a liberal caricature like myself, seems very difficult to comprehend, submitting to submitting so totally to what the electorate or people in power are going to decide about how to use your body, but they do that all a full volition. And if the word hero is not right, there's something about that is, I think, noble, right?
So interesting point number two, which is, hey, listen, they give up their free will in a sense when they join the army because you got to follow those rules. No ands, ifs, or buts. Could you do that? I don't know. Could I do that? I don't know. And does that make you more noble and heroic, or does it make you part of the war machine? It's a good question. No, we can't have it. Veterans of foreign wars demand an apology. They call it insipid and callous. They go on Fox News blasting away. And of course, that means that Chris has to come out and apologize. But of course, not just Fox News. Here comes Donny Deutsch on NBC's Today Show. Let's watch this guy.
I'm repulsed. I mean, I hope that he doesn't get more viewers as a result of this. To say that, and by the way, this guy is like if you see what he looks like a weenie. And, to sit there where these guys are risking their lives, they are heroes. Beginning, middle, end of story. I don't know what the other side is on.
Oh, and that's classy, dude, by the way, put up his picture, because he must have told the producers ahead of time, hey, I'm going to make fun of the way he looks, so have his picture ready, right? And because Donny Deutsch, he's a really tough guy. Remember all those wars that he served in? Remind me which ones those were again, Donny? Because you're not a weenie, right? Because you're really tough. Because what's really tough is protecting power, protecting the Pentagon, protecting wars. That's really tough. That takes a lot of courage and bravery, okay? And beating up on a guy who's actually trying to ask an interesting question. No, yeah, he's a weenie. Look at that loser. He actually thinks. Donny, congratulations. You don't think. You're really, really tough that way. So, of course, MSNBC has to back down. Here comes Chris Hayes with an apology. On Sunday, in discussing the use of the word hero to describe those members of the armed forces who have given their lives, I don't think I lived up to the standards of rigor, respect, and empathy for those affected by the issues we discussed that I've set for myself. I am deeply sorry for that. And I got to be honest, I am deeply sorry that Chris has to make this apology. Have the conversation, okay? Don't shut down the conversation. Here's a perfectly normal response to what Chris had. Hey, you know what, Chris? you're right that it's an interesting question as to whether we're propping up war by calling everybody who died in a war a hero, whether that glorifies more war. But at the same time, you have to understand, obviously, as Chris does and explain in the segment, hey, you know what? These guys gave their lives for their country, and even if it was a mistaken war like Iraq, they thought they were they did have the best of intentions and thought they were doing the best thing they could for their country, what their country asked them to do. That's a normal conversation. Nothing wrong with that conversation. No, here comes the second round of profusely apologizing. In the end, Chris also says, but in seeking to discuss the civilian-military divide and the social distance between those who fight and those who don't, I ended up reinforcing it, conforming to a stereotype of a removed pundit whose views are not anchored in the very real and very wrenching experience of this long decade of war, and for that, I am truly sorry. Now, once again, what I'm sorry about is that this whole conversation has unfortunately conformed to exactly what Chris was trying to fight in the first place, which is do not question any part of the military for any reason. Bow your heads. It was a decent question to begin with. I will not bow my head, and I will not apologize for it. I didn't do it, but I think it was a discussion worth having, and I'm glad Chris brought it up in the first place. I'm sorry to see that he had to apologize for it. There's something sick about the way that these apologies are forced upon people.